Okay, so let's get into some of the physical practices, okay? I've learned a lot of different practices from a lot of different teachers. I have my own flavor, as I'm sure every Qigong teacher does. Things that I like, things that I love, things that have worked for me. So anyway, I want to share some of those with you. We're going to have a flow here today. Go ahead and take your hands and start rubbing your hands together. This is not just rubbing your hands together. There's a very important location in your body, and it is called the lower dantian in Chinese medicine. This is the area around your navel center, roughly. And this area is also referred to, and is being referred to more and more these days, as the second brain. And the second brain lives in your gut. So therefore, your gut has a lot to do with your state of health. It also has a lot to do with your state of mind. When you're rubbing your hands together like this is a great way to alleviate anxiety. This is a great way to bring concentration and focus to your body. This is a good way to wake yourself up. And then what we're going to do, I'm actually going to start showing you some individual exercises. Later, this is going to come together. If you want to put it together in a flow, there's like 9 exercises. But I also want to show it to you in pieces so that you have an exercise for this, an exercise for that. And sometimes you only have 5 minutes, right? So here's an exercise. It's a little chilly out. You start rubbing your hands. Let me show you here. Bring the hands to like an upside down triangle here. Your navel center right in the middle of that, okay? Now, relax for a minute, your body a little bit. Bring your feet about shoulder width apart. Bend your knees slightly. If you're going to catch one thing today, if you're going to learn one thing today from this program, and you're only going to take one thing home, this exercise right here, practice it every day, even if you do not do it standing, which is a more potent version of the practice. Do this lying in bed when you wake up in the morning. Do this before you go to bed at night. Take it for what it's worth. I've been working on people's bodies and with people's bodies and people's energy for 40 years. I've worked on I don't even know how many people. Here's something I discovered. Everybody's illness starts here. I don't care what the illness is, what the disease is, where the pain is. And Chinese medicine, by the way, TCM agrees. Many traditional Chinese medicine doctors and so on agree with this philosophy. But it is something that I've found within myself, and it's something that I've seen within other people. This is an area, ladies, gentlemen, this is an area we're disconnected from. We're disconnected from it. We don't breathe there. We try and stay away from there because that's where the seat of our emotion sits. But if you start going there with attention, you start going there, laying your hands there, oh, watch what happens. Over time, you're going to stir some really good energy. All right, shake that off. That's just to understand that. I'm not going to have you practice that for too long. It's much easier lying down in bed. Do that version. Don't forget that version. Then every once in a while, do the standing version. Here's the first exercise, though, of our flow. We're going to come back to that one. This one here is called the gentle drum. Sometimes it's called knocking on the door of life. You're swinging your arms. You can either have your heels flat to the floor, or you can raise your heels as you're turning. What is one of the ideas behind this exercise? It is to open up the spine, and it is to start getting blood, energy, called qi sometimes, and the lymphatic system moving, getting it all moving, getting the cranial sacred fluid moving. In China, many people have been diagnosed with terminal disease, and they don't have as much access to Western medicine as we do. Last I heard, 8.5 million people are practicing Qigong in the park on a daily basis, somewhere around China. 8.5 million people. Many of them have been diagnosed 4 years ago and said, you're going to be dead in 2 weeks. They then started practicing this simple kind of exercise like this. And literally this one exercise here, you can see people doing in the park for a half hour. And there's a very potent practice that can be created here. I will show you. You may make a little note of it later. I'll remind you on your little piece of paper that we're going to give you with some of the names of the exercises, because it's one of my favorite ways to do it. So notice we're moving, and we're going to stay moving. It's a subtle movement, but we're moving, right? So we're going to go from some movement exercises back to the first exercise I showed you, which is called holding the lower dantian. So we're going to go from movement back to holding the lower dantian. See what you feel when that time comes. So for right now, we're moving. We're trying to just get some stuff flowing. Wherever you feel stuck in your back, your spine, one of the things about yoga, one of the things about Qigong, which some people consider a Chinese form of yoga, one of the things that is so important about that practice is really getting in touch with your body. So when you feel that stiffness, like I feel some stiffness right now in my lower back, I want to move in such a way that I'm not skipping over that area. I'm trying to move into it and get it to move a little bit. I also don't want to overstretch it or over move it, so I got to be careful. But all right, so we're going from this movement where you have all of this sort of happening. Let this unwind. Hold yourself still. Later, we're going to come to an exercise at the end of our routine called standing tree meditation. I'm showing it to you briefly right now just to stabilize yourself. This is often called standing tree meditation. There's much more to be said about it. Perhaps I'll share more later. From this position here, we go into one of my favorite Qigong exercises. I showed you this one earlier. I said, don't forget this. This is another one. Take it with you wherever you go, and it can be practiced totally on its own. This next one's called the waterfall. Imagine a waterfall above your head coming here and water running down through you. First, bring yourself to some degree of a horse stance, whatever's comfortable. Be careful, just whatever's comfortable. The backs of your hands will go down toward the ground. First, we're going to do it without the breath, and then we'll do it with the breath. I'm going to slowly, Qigong is slow. I'm going to slowly start bringing up my hands, Imagine water, a column of water above your head. It comes down through your body, and it's washing your body clean. That water goes down through the lower dantian, past the navel center, down into the ground. You slowly start coming back up. So first practice with this one, we're just going to focus on Qi development, which means we're not focusing on the breath. We're just doing slow, methodical movement. And this right here is what many people know and consider Qigong to be. The skilled cultivation of gathering universal life force is how they define it. You may start to know what that is after you do it for a little while. So sinking your weight as you come down here to this position and slowly letting your legs become taller, going up, reaching up. And then imagine, this one sometimes is called pulling down the heavens. You'll see different names sometimes for these Qigong exercises. So again, you can imagine here pulling as you're coming up the water, or you can literally imagine bringing down the sky. Either way, it's going to do good things for your energy. So here now, as your hands go up, slow inhale through the nose whenever you're ready, perhaps next time. The exhale is not through the nose like yoga, it's through the mouth. And make a little sound when you exhale, like the sound of a sigh. Like the doctor says to you, make the sound of ah. This is like a H-A, like a ha, like a ha. This is one way of doing this. Good sound for clearing the stress from the heart. We're going to do 3 more of those. One more. Now, let's go right back into this. Another round of this, just so you can see what the benefits of these practices are when we go to the next practice, which will be this holding of the lower dantian again. It's kind of like checking in, seeing what's going on. We'll talk more about it. So this stirs your energy pot. It stirs your blood. It stirs the lymphatic system. It stirs all of these different things, the qi, the cranial sacral fluid, stirs it all. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we have this concept, the theory behind, one of the main theories behind traditional Chinese medicine, which Qigong is a part of, and Medical Qigong is a part of. And that theory says that whenever qi is stuck and it's not flowing well, then disease is the result. And you know, years ago, or perhaps even now, some Western medicine people will say, oh, what a bunch of hocus pocus, or something. But more and more it's catching on. Hey, exercise heals. Well, why does exercise heal? Because it moves your blood, because it moves your lymphatic system. It keeps things moving. Qigong is a form of ancient exercise. Very important. Keep things moving, your blood moving, your qi moving, all of those things. This is what keeps us healthy. All right, so we're swinging. We now come to this position where we stabilize. This is our standing tree meditation briefly here to get stabilized. From this position now, with the backs of your hands, exhale as you sink to the floor. Inhale as you come up. Hold that breath in your lower belly a little bit if you can. You're going to exhale through the mouth. And a key little detail here is at the end, when you get to the exhalation and you finish the exhalation, hold your breath out for about a second, then inhale. So one way to do that is you go inhale, you make the ha sound, ha, and then at the very end you go ha. Now bring your feet a little closer together, about shoulder width apart. This is where we come back. There's different variations of how we can hold the hands. So one way also is just to place one hand over the other hand. Your thumb, one of your thumbs, at the lower rim of your belly button, okay? And just place your hands here. This area, again, is lower dantian. When we practice Qigong, this is a place we want to ongoingly come back to. If you've ever seen pictures or images of the Buddha or something, the Buddha is always holding hands down here in this vicinity. If you see different practitioners practicing, In Taoist practice, you may see it more like this. There's slight variations, but there's a tremendous emphasis on this area. Make a circle right here from right to left. So go right, your right side, small circle around your navel center area. Just go here for a moment. This is the area of lower dantian. We say that when we talk about circulating qi or building qi or developing qi power or those kinds of things, and then go ahead and hold it again, just hold it. This is the area that it comes from. So if we were doing a martial movement or something, a martial art movement, the power has to come from here. If we were playing baseball and I was really going to hit a ball out of the park, I would actually have to hit it from here. I have some golfers that I've coached to some very high levels. I don't know anything about golf, but I know Qigong. And when you put your breath and you move from your dantian, there's tremendous power you can generate in your body. This is an area, get in touch with it, I highly recommend. Let's go back into waterfall. We come down, we come up. Inhale. Exhale. You should be noticing that your breaths are getting a little deeper, a little longer. Exhale, finish. Ha. Come up. Inhale. Let's do a few more. Now, some of you, I'm going to have everybody with me, march your feet, okay? This is a slightly different reason than doing aerobics or something. But marching your feet, there's a reason that soldiers march. It eliminates fatigue, it increases concentration, helps them focus, helps them go for longer periods of time. But there's also some ancient Chinese secrets related to why that is. And if you ever want to see, I don't know that any one of you would be interested in this, but I will just say it. You ever want to see super soldiers just from the perspective of like human beings who can do crazy things, impressive things with their bodies? Check out the Korean Special Forces. They're all Qigong masters. Unbelievable what they can do. Unbelievable. Anyway, marching your feet, okay, gets bad energy out through your feet. There's a primary acupuncture point in your feet there. It's called kidney 1. In order for you to have energy, longevity, all of this in your body, you have to stimulate the kidneys. I will throughout the day, but I don't want to give you too much information. A lot of you are not acupuncturists or other things. But the lower dantian feeds those kidneys. That's where it all starts, and that's also where it all ends. So when your energy is running out of your lower belly, it's running out of your kidneys. And when it starts running out of your kidneys, everything else starts going downhill. That's my simple explanation of that. So, marching also helps us get grounded. So when you're practicing, for example, waterfall is an excellent grounding exercise. This is the gathering part. This is the grounding part. So even when you've gathered and tried to ground, sometimes you're still a little fuzzy in your head. Start marching and actually pound your feet a little bit. Okay, so like even when you leave today, whenever you leave today, march to your car, because I'm telling you, you're going to be a little like this in your head. You're going to be a little like, whoa, what is that? So marching can help that, okay? All right, Let's come back to this exercise one more time here. Waterfall. We're inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale here. Inhale. So the idea there is, regardless of how far you can go down with your horse stance, the idea is just sink a little bit and try and put your mind down there in the ground. Easier said than done, but it takes a little practice, but that's what you're trying to do. Now bring those hands back to lower dantian. Feet about shoulder width apart. And hold your hands there. Here's a question. I don't know if any of you remember the commercial that was around. I remember it from when I was a kid, that said, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? And there was an owl, and the owl would lick, lick, lick. And anyway, the owl would count how many licks, and then it would chomp it in one bite, you know. Anyway, but how many licks does it take? How much energy does it take? That comes back to the tipping point. You don't exactly know, but you're looking to fill up a little bit more your gas tank, a little bit more your gas tank, a little bit more your gas tank. You're gonna start feeling a little lightheaded when you're starting to get too much. Pound the feet. Pound the feet. Until you get used to this, this is very important. There's two very important principles with Qigong practice. Everybody talks about this one. Everybody go like this with me. Everybody talks about this one. Gather the heavens. That's fantastic. But if you cannot be anchored, is this in the camera when I come over here? If you're not anchored like this wood, if you're not anchored like this wood, you cannot hold on to those high levels of energy. So it's a going up and a down. And an up and a down. And an up and a down. Excellent. And then let's go into this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Watching your breath, inhaling every once in a while, exhaling every once in a while. And then let that unwind. Hold yourself to the standing tree meditation here. Be still. And later, when you guys maybe get a little better at Qigong, practice for a little while. It has a look, it has a vibe, and you do it for a period of time, and you go into a zone. That takes some discipline to actually get there. Keith, come on up here, buddy. Keith's gonna stand here. He's been training with me for a while. He's one of the teachers in our program. Everybody say hi to Keith. Hi. So Keith's just gonna strike that pose he's striking back there, okay? Y'all can watch him for a minute. And as simple as this pose is and seems, well, he's just standing there. Keith will stand like this, if I asked him to, for an hour, no problem. And every time you looked over at Keith, he's gonna be like shaking. And yet he's still standing there. An hour later, he'll still be standing there, but his body is shaking and vibrating, okay? So Qigong is awesome because you can gather this energy, right? You'll be able to see it in people. I'll show it to you. Stick around. You'll see it today. You'll experience it today. But it is very important that we stay grounded, and so we have to practice keeping our attention in our feet. That takes practice. It takes time. You know, you either dedicate the time to it or not, but if you do, the holding of the feet, energy starts to come up through the kidney one point starts to come up through many energy centers in the floor of your feet. Just while you're standing there right now, it starts coming up your legs. It usually gets stuck in the knees and the hips. That's why your low back starts hurting. That's why you're even holding right here without even realizing that is an exercise. That's a Qigong exercise to heal your kidneys. What you're doing right there. Hands like this. This is actually, go ahead and hold your hands like this. Some version, you can either do it this way or this way, but this is actually an exercise for your low back. It is an exercise for your kidneys. And typically, the kidney exercise is more like this, where your hands are here. And typically, this is a little bit liver gallbladder. And when you put your hands on your sides like this, first of all, how many of you have noticed your mother or your grandmother or somebody in the kitchen stand like this, or the police officer stand like this and get out there in traffic and stand like this? This is a position where the moment you place your thumbs, they're going in the vicinity of gallbladder points. And this has an energy of like a little, like power, a little bit of warrior energy. I'm making myself bigger. You'll see coaches and different people on the front of their books or whatever, and they stand like this. I've had photographers photograph me like this. This is a power pose. Just standing like this for 2 minutes starts to change your blood. Starts to change your blood chemistry. 2 minutes. This, again, is more liver related, whereas this one, and by the way, you start practicing Qigong, it starts to ache back here. Why? Because that's where the energy is stuck. It's trying to make its way to the kidneys. All right? So, take a couple of breaths in and out. Keith, go ahead and take 3 breaths there. Inhale, exhale. Walk away as desired. Take a little break, but on this break, aside from just visiting the restroom, take a few minutes, let's say 10 minutes. Walk around in these trees. If you're gonna have a conversation with someone, no problem, but have it be a soft conversation, not a busy conversation, because try and take in the energy, the fields of energy that are literally coming off of the trees. I recommend walking with your palms open. You might even be, if you want, be doing this on your walk. But walk with your palms open. Your palms, let them feed off of the energy that's there. Go over and reach near a pine tree, for example, and don't completely touch it, but leave your hand hovering right off of the pine tree. You're now in the energy field of the pine tree. See if you notice any tingling. See if you notice any energy there, okay? Why don't people notice energy? Because some people are very sensitive to energy. My goodness, if I work on Tanya, I just go like this, and Tanya has a full body response from one little motion that I make, because she's very sensitive to energy. Other people are very dense and very heavy, and it's difficult for them to feel energy because they're physically, in some way, they could be very skinny, but they're still padded in some way. Energetically, there's a density that's there. If you desire to have healing in your body and a lighter life, we have to learn to lighten up. And it's not easy, okay? It takes some practice and so on. It's actually easy. The funny thing is it's like, it is easy, right? It's like the easiest thing, but we don't do it anymore. So anyway, I invite you to take 10 minutes to go walk with the trees, and I invite you to do something so silly and ridiculous. For some people, it's silly and ridiculous. Literally put your hands there and feel the energy of the tree, because trees have healing energy to provide you. Their roots grow deep into the earth, and the trees that stay green all year round, they have the most potent qi. And if they're near water, they have the most potent qi. Bathe in that, absorb that, stand in front of the tree, just like Keith is standing here. He could stand this way, or he could rotate his hands and literally do this and start absorbing from the tree. There's more to it than that. I would get more technical later, but start there. All right, enjoy your break, sip a little water, have some fun with the trees, come back and we'll practice. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so first of all, again, as I was saying earlier in the program, nature is healing. Some people don't like to get their feet dirty, they don't like to go outside, you know, so on. But getting used to the elements and becoming connected to the elements, it feeds you. Being around all this electromagnetic stuff in our computers, everything, unfortunately, it's outside now too, everywhere. But the trees give us one of our greatest hopes to stay connected to that, rooted to that, fed from that Mother Earth energy and so on. Again, especially these trees that stay green all year round and their roots go down into the ground. So there's a couple of different things you can do with your Qigong practice when you're practicing with a tree. One of them, give you a basic idea here, is because you can always stand, bathe yourself. The deeper the forest, the closer the trees are, the more you can walk in their energy, the more that is just gonna bomb your energy field. Like when I go places that have a really thick forest, I just will, like Tanya and Bella know, I'm always like, oh my God, I'm like, the Qi is so thick here, it's so amazing, right? And that's what it's like back in here as you get into it more, right? But sometimes there's a tree on the edge, and in North Carolina, for example, you don't want to go right in there because it's chigger time, and that's not a fun experience. So stay to the edge of the forest. But when you hold a tree, for example, I could either do this hands off or I could do it hands on. But when you're holding the tree here, scoot a little bit this way, Val, you're in the camera. No, unless you want to be. You want to be the star?
No,
You
no.
should. I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. I'm just letting you know, you're good. You're good. So again, it can be hands on or it can be hands off. But basically these Qigong positions that we do where we stand and we have our hands like this is again a good start. The deeper practices is where you imagine you start taking energy through your legs up into your lower dantian. You start to circulate it up your spine. You run it down over your head. You allow the toxicity that's in your body to exit your hands. The tree absorbs it. The tree takes it down into the roots, cleans it, up comes more energy. And you can create this circuitry with a tree. Does the tree have to be there? No. Can it be helpful to have the tree there? Absolutely. So here we actually have the tree. Again, I can be hands off or I can be hands on. The thing that a lot of people couldn't understand, right, from just looking at that position. Maybe they see a picture on YouTube, they see a picture on Facebook. The thing you can't understand is like you'll never know what 15 minutes of that is going to do until you do 15 minutes of that. But once you do say, just like roughly, let's say 15 minutes of that, that's about how long it would take. You start relaxing places in your body, and not just your body, but in your energy system that you didn't even know you had. They start to unlock. If something is locked, like if my hands are locked, I can't receive the energy in the same way. If I unlock this, the energy comes rushing in. The lower dantian area is referred to in Qigong, yogic practices, as housing the first, what they call the first psychic knot. Simply put, this is the seat of our emotions, and because we don't like certain emotions, how they feel, how people have made us feel by pushing those buttons that we have, we decided to like lock it down. And the problem is we locked it down right here, and yes, it does keep me being able to talk like this and I seem okay, but that can cause cancer. That can cause all kinds of problems. Holding your breath in that way and being guarded and just, you know, somebody says, how are you? And you're like, fine. But you're becoming, like I said, like I was, like concrete. It causes disease. So these practices are about standing there just long enough, which for you might be, you know, maybe you could do it for 2 minutes, 15 minutes. For some of you, it's going to be very hard. But doing it for a period of time long enough that you start to unlock some of these things. Now, for those of you that would like to catch this, I'm going to throw something. And for those of you that would like to catch it, please catch it. And in order to catch it, I'm going to invite you to do something. It's called take 3 deep breaths. Breathe deep in through your nose. Exhale your breath through your mouth or your nose. And then do it again. There is a way to know, there are many ways, but I'm going to share one way with you that as a beginner, I would want you to know. And if you train with me for however many years, I would still want you to know it, and I would want you to know even more than the beginner knew about this particular subject. If you go and hold a tree, which I'm going to have you guys do again, I'm going to have you all try and find a tree in a little bit here. When you're holding the tree and you're just standing there, for a beginner, the hardest thing is just stand there. It's hard. And the mind's all busy doing whatever it's doing. That's part of the problem. If you stood there with the tree just long enough, all that, it starts to change. You're not so busy, so noisy. The first hard part comes where your body's not used to standing at attention. That's really the problem. So your body fights that. You're not used to it. Your body's not strong enough yet to do it. So over time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you can get stronger, okay? Now, when you're holding the tree, a lot of people go practice, even if they do. They go, okay, I'm holding the tree. Did something happen? Some of you are sensitive to energy. You know something happened. Other people, I don't know if anything happened. How do I know if something's happening? In medical Qigong, we focus very much, especially me, it's one of my things, on what is happening with your saliva. Your saliva is not just saliva, it's feeding hormones that are either medicine or poison to your body. That's what's happening in your throat right now today. Some of you may have noticed in practicing here before, and again, I told you I can only say so much so fast, so on, but the rest of the day, I want you to pay attention to your saliva. Is it moving? Is it not moving? When you swallow, is it a lumpy swallow, or are you hardly swallowing at all? When you begin swallowing, are you starting to cough? Because I'm telling you, if you came and saw me for a medical Qigong treatment, for example, or you saw me at a seminar where I was doing that, which I mean I'm doing a little bit of that today, and I'll give you a demonstration of that later. I'm going to be talking about saliva, what is happening with a person's saliva, because if the saliva is not moving, if the saliva is dry, if the saliva is of a certain quality, it's more like phlegm. This is an indication of all kinds of problems throughout the system, inflammation, so on and so forth. And the digestion and the breath, it's all tied together, guys. And if you don't open up the digestion and you don't open up the breath, and I will tell you, they go together. Not a lot of people will say that, but as you get deeper into the understanding of the teachings, you'll hear more and more yoga teachers, meditation teachers, TCM teachers, they'll all tell you that. The breath and the digestion, it's all connected. So for example, those of you like acupuncturists, large intestine paired with what? The lungs. So large intestine sits where? Down here. Lungs sit where? They're paired organs in Chinese medicine. They work together. They feed each other. Okay, back to the tree. So you're standing there. You're holding your hands on the tree. And you're going, okay, David said, you know, 3 to 15 minutes. I did 10. I don't know if I really noticed anything. I don't know if Qigong's for me. I think I'll go try yoga or whatever. I want to give you a deeper understanding so that if you want to bring about medicine in your body, medicine, the most powerful medicine that I know of that lives in your body is called hormone. It is the most powerful cell-to-cell communicator in your body. It reaches from head to toe. And the moment that you begin to produce life hormone, which happens in the glands of your body, which are associated with the chakra system of your body, and you begin to secrete life hormone into your own body, you have the most potent medicine known to man. The large majority, and woman, the large majority of medicines are built upon the function of hormones. When Dr. Bill came and gave a lecture with me in Boulder, we did a seminar, he did a lecture at the beginning of the seminar, he brought this little map, and it looked like the most condensed New York City roadway. It was just like crazy map of all these roads, everything. He said, this is one pinhead. In terms of the bigger picture, it's a pinhead, and this is what we know about the endocrine system. And yet all medicines are based on that endocrine system. Life hormone lives in your body, but you need to know how to turn it on, and you need to know if it's being turned on. You need to have some sign, some indication. Otherwise, you're probably not going to practice it for very long, number one. And number two, you're not going to get the results that I would hope that you would get. And if you don't get those results, listen, please, carefully, if you desire, even at home, you're not going to get the results that you desire if you do it for a few minutes and then you don't have reason to do it longer, or you don't have, like in China, right? 8.5 million people practicing Qigong. They're wearing the uniforms, they're not wearing the uniforms. It's part of their culture. It's not part of our culture. As Westerners, we need to understand, why am I doing it? How long am I doing it for? And what result is it going to give me if I do it? If I do it every day for 10 minutes, what can I expect? If I did it for an hour today, would I heal myself of my cancer? This is giving people some kind of reference point to say, this is how you can begin working with it and understanding it to the best of my ability to give it to you anyway, scientifically, both from an Eastern standpoint and a Western standpoint. I deliver you the knowledge. I offer you the power of that knowledge. I give you the confidence of my understanding of it, my practice, my success stories. I hand it to you. It's yours. Then it's yours. You do what you want with it. But then I at least gave you the information. So those of you that want to, you don't want to, if you understood what I said and you're understanding where I'm going with this, you don't want to just stand there and hold your hands to the tree, although do that all day long. But if you're going to do the 5 minutes, if you're going to do the 10 minutes, here's the sign I want you to look for. Is it tickling your saliva? If it's not, the energy is not reaching your kidneys. If it's not tickling your saliva, you have not stood there long enough. That doesn't mean you have to stay there all day, because you might just need to come back tomorrow. But if your saliva is not moving yet, then you have not built up your qi enough yet. Because what happens, I'm starting to teach you medical Qigong, what happens after saliva changes and you swallow? And you swallow again. Well, what typically happens is a lumpy swallow that in Oriental medicine we call plum pit qi. It's like a lump in the throat. You swallow a plum pit, it's lumpy. Everybody that I've ever worked on in helping them heal something of a bigger nature, rather than just like my hand hurts, anything of a bigger nature, what you would think of as like internal medicine, anybody that I've ever helped heal anything, they always had to move through plum pit qi. We had to bring about the fact that plum pit qi was sitting there in the first place. We had to bring the saliva. What happens next? What happens next, because I've seen it 1,000+ times, what happens next is people finally, and I'll try and do this today if we have somebody, or at least two somebodies or whatever, that are willing to do it. I'll show you. I gave a demonstration in Asheville in August. That was the last seminar I taught here recently. And we had a guy who was, he's actually in our certification program. He was willing to be one of the guinea pigs and show people how it's done. Big guy, got down on the table, lied on the table. We did some healing work. We had a medical doctor there as well who was really like sitting back like, I don't know about all this stuff. And we were standing in a group like this, and we started, I just had people hold their hands like this to start feeding his energy field. That's like us acting like trees, is one way of thinking about it. And I told him, like clockwork, I want you to watch the saliva. Well, guess what happened? The saliva came. After the saliva came, what happened? Plum pit chi. After plum pit chi happened, this is what we're getting to next. The breath changes. Remember how I said earlier things are locked in your body? They're locked. Until you open them, the energy cannot come in. Well, you know what? The lungs are exactly like that. It's on lockdown. Everybody take a deep breath. Do an evaluation of how locked down you are or are not. Just inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. Now with me, waterfall, exhale, go, ah, get it out, and then inhale. Exhale, ah, get it out, inhale. Exhale, ah. All right, this is one way to start to unlock the breath. But as we talk about more internal practices of Qigong, like standing by the tree and you're in a static pose, it's very important for you to have some understanding about the internal workings. You stand there, the energy starts coming up through your feet. The energy starts feeding your lower dantian. When your lower dantian has enough juice, your saliva starts moving. Your kidneys are being fed. In Oriental medicine, and I know it's a lot of information if you're new and so on, but if you stick around, you'll hear me say it all the time. The kidneys in Oriental medicine control the inhalation. They control it. So if I say, Val, take a deep breath, she goes, she breathes. Why can't her breath be deeper than whatever it is? Because the kidneys are stopping it. How do you get the kidneys? Because what happens when there's a bear? Oh my God, there's a bear. And I run. What happens? Right away, my root fires up my adrenals, which sits where? Right below the kidneys. And then the kidneys fire, and I get all this adrenaline going and like all of this, right? Well, what is the opposite of that? We call that fight or flight. What is the opposite of that? Rest and digest. When you're practicing by the tree, or what I teach my practitioners when I'm teaching people to do medical Qigong and so on, how do I know that my healing work is working? Well, one way I know for sure, even if I'm very psychic, intuitive, and I could be on the phone, I don't need to see you, I could be on the computer, it's just, for some people it'd be bizarre, but it's been my life for a lot of years. But even if you don't have that sense, you're doing healing work with someone else. What you're looking for is a rest and digest response, a relaxation response. Whether you're massage, acupuncture, you're looking for a rest and digest response. I know that's a lot, it's a mouthful, and I pumped it out. But now let's take it into a relaxed practice of Qigong, and the basics go like this. You're going to stand with a tree. Your hands will be on the tree or off the tree. You're imaging energy coming up through your feet. And honestly, you don't have to super image it because it's already happening. But it will help it happen if you begin to image it a little bit because you're helping it along. It'll just start naturally climbing your legs while you're standing there. If you need to move around for a little bit just to shake it off because your legs are getting stiff, no problem. You're looking to be still for just long enough. Why? Because when you're still, it gathers energy to you in a way that when you're always busy, you're not getting that kind of energy. So we go to poses and postures but that place is not easy to talk to you about the workings of it, right? So I want to give you the workings of it, which for some people that I teach and some people on YouTube, it's too much. They're like, why don't you just stand there in a uniform and do what the other teachers do, and they don't say anything? Because I live in the West. I healed myself through this stuff. There's a science behind it to me, and I believe that if I give you the science, just enough of it, not like some of these seminars, no offense to any of them, but where they get up there and they give you like all this stuff about quantum physics and they go on all day with no practice. That's too much for me. But I need to give you the bare bones basics. Why? Because you can go home tomorrow, you can practice Qigong, even if I don't see you for 6 months or whatever. You come back to me and go, David, I practiced for 6 months. I didn't swallow once. Well, first of all, that's very hard to believe. But you'll probably say to me, not only did I swallow, I started swallowing a lot. Then I started getting lumpy swallows. Then all of a sudden one day, like my lungs, like I got this deep breath. But David, I haven't been able to do it again. Can you help me figure out why that is? Then we can have a deeper discussion about another level of Qigong that's going to help you. What's going to help you? What specifically might be in your way? But if you don't have any information, I promise you, you're going to go stand like this for, you'll do it today. You're not going to do it tomorrow. You know, sure as heck not going to do it 2 months from now. But like Keith, for example, how long you been training with me?
Probably 6 years total.
6 years. So back injury, he didn't know if he could do stuff like this again. He didn't know if he could go surfing, which he loves to do. He's doing it now, okay? He stuck around long enough to figure out some of these things. You've heard these things many times before, haven't you? You've seen me demonstrate this many times before. There's another guy, he's not here today, but he's somebody who's trained with me for some number of years. And in one of our online programs, which some of you might have seen, we did a program right here in Wilmington. And he came in, he was having a gallbladder attack. 2 surgeons, one surgeon, that's a different story, that's another client. One surgeon wanted to remove his gallbladder. That was on Friday. He almost didn't make the seminar. He did not tell me. I didn't know anything about it. Saturday or Sunday of the program, I asked for volunteers for me to do some healing work. I did healing work on him. I had one person on one table, one person on another table. I was doing healing work on both people. I looked from across the room, he was a little ways away from me, and he had a very specific release in his body of breath. And I said, do you see that right there? That is a liver gallbladder release, I said to the audience observing. Unbeknownst to me, he's in the middle of a liver gallbladder attack, and he's literally scheduled to have his gallbladder removed Monday, okay? So he has the liver gallbladder release. He goes back Monday for the testing, and they say, the doctor said, I've never seen numbers turn around like this before. Never. Never. What are you doing? What did you do? Like it's off the chart, okay? So, and I can say that with a lot of other things that I work with my private clients, but we'll keep it at that. But you understand what I'm saying. They go for a test, they do some of this work, they go back and then they do the test. And then we see where are things at. Actually, I'll tell you one more real brief. Guy from, he's from another country. I work with him on Zoom. I've never even physically met him. He went from having cancer in his lymph nodes to where they're going to do surgery. Like, bam, we need to get you in for chemo next week. He starts practicing Qigong. I told him, if your surgery gets delayed, don't be surprised. Surgery got delayed. They said, oh, we can't do it. Hospital's too busy. I told him, if that happens, you just trust more time for practice. He practices more and more and more. Then they downgrade it from Hodgkin's lymphoma. They downgrade it to something else. I told him, I said, one of the first things I want to do is help you downgrade the disease. I said, I can't legally tell you I can do that, but I can say to you, I'm going to help you with Qigong, do it to the best of your ability. Well, he did. He downgraded it, he downgraded it. Then he backed off on his practice for a while. He knows who he is. He'll be watching this video later probably. Some stuff started to come back, but nowhere near as bad as it was when it began. He's like, I gotta get back to my practice. Called me up, re-engaged. This is what's going on. I evaluate the saliva. I evaluate what's happening in your throat, your breath, your swallow. You need to do it for yourself when you're practicing with your tree. So, in this next exercise, you're gonna go find a tree. You're gonna go to that tree, stand in front of it, hands on it. You're imaging energy coming up through your feet, your knees, your hips, into your lower belly. Watch what happens in your throat. I want you to try and get at least a few swallows. And if you get to the place, don't super effort, just watch. You're not trying to make it happen, just watch. And don't be worried or concerned if it's not doing it. But just observe, what is the state of my saliva? What? Okay, I said it was the last story, but I got one more for you and then off to the tree. My dad passed recently, it was about a year ago. Still processing that whole event, but I will tell you this. I bought him on the level that I did, so to speak, with the help of the Holy Spirit that moves through me. 5 years. He had a stroke. They said, this person is done for. He's in a coma. He'll never come out of it. He had tubes everywhere. I did the Qigong work. I moved his saliva through the Qi work. Simple way of saying it. He was supposed to have, this is why I'm telling you this last story, he was supposed to have a saliva test on Monday. I love that. I was like, okay, this is awesome. You can have a saliva test on Monday. He's gonna pass it, is what I said to myself. So Monday he's gonna have a saliva test. If he does not pass the saliva test, we need to put a tube in his stomach. I said, all right. I said, Dad, you know, on the level of mine, I said, Dad, I don't know what you want, but I'm here. I'm gonna offer whatever energy I can, you know, do with it whatever you can do with it, right? I look at everybody as their own Qigong practitioner. I'm helping them, right? He has multiple movements of saliva. He gags, he chokes. He did this Saturday, he did this Sunday, because I worked on him several times. Monday came, the saliva test was an hour away. I went in and I worked on him one more time. No joke, he sat up in bed, woke up, looked me right in the eyes and said, when are we going home? The doctors came, everyone was freaking out. The nurses were freaking out, the doctors were freaking. They pulled out all the tubes. Within 3 or 4 days, he was out of the hospital. He lived for another 5 years. He got to reevaluate his life. Look at his life. A saliva test, everybody. A saliva test. Don't let anybody ever tell you saliva is just saliva. Don't let them, no lack of better way of saying it, don't let them dumb you down. Don't be dumbed down by the idea that saliva is just saliva. Saliva carries the most potent medicine that is known to man and womankind scientifically. And there's some other things too associated with hormones, but hormones in particular. And so they're either feeding your body healthy or they're causing you poison. Let's have them feed you healthy. Go practice with your tree. Let's say 10 minutes again, 10 minutes. Feel the saliva, watch the saliva. I want to hear your stories when you come back. If your saliva's stuck, tell me. If you swallowed 10 times, tell me. If you had a deep breath, please tell me, okay? Then I can help you with that, all right? Go ahead.